Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm a teacher, tarot oracle card reader, and I am the singer and guitarist in the band Red Treasure, and I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach, and I help people shift away from negative thinking and their lives transform. And I am in sunny San Diego, California today.
And we want to thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you're listening to the audio version on CastBox, Overcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And we want to thank you for watching us. If you're watching us on the YouTube, the Co-Creation Station YouTube channel, at this time, we are posting a brand new episode every Monday morning. We want to thank you so much for liking us, following us, subscribing to us, giving us a review, whatever your platform allows you to do. All of these things really help people find the show, and we're very grateful to you for that. You can always leave us a comment on our YouTube channel video, or you can email us at cocreationstation1111@gmail.com. Each week we start our discussion here on Co-Creation Station from a different jumping off point, and this week I think I have the jumping off point. It's a story that I believe full well my friend David Johnson would be more than happy for me to tell on the show. He's a big supporter. So back when I was in getting my master's degree in acting at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, back in the late 90s, Athens, Ohio is right near the border of southwestern Ohio and West Virginia. So the climate is warmer than like the northern states where I'm originally from. Places like Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Michigan, Buffalo, New York. It's not that cold, but it does get chilly in the winter. So we do have days and nights where it gets pretty cold. And because it's not cold that often, a lot of people don't necessarily have a full wardrobe that will help you on your coldest day. So there was one Friday or Saturday night where Dave, myself, and a couple other people from the acting school that we were going to went out to go to dinner and on Court Street, which is the main drag through Athens, Ohio. It was a very, very, very cold night. And when we went to the different restaurants, like they were all full, and there was a wait at all of them. So we went to one, and they said there's like a 10-minute. I think we went to the one where there was the shortest wait because we were all cold. So it was like a 10-minute wait, something like that. We got a table, and the only table they had to put us at was the one right near the front door. So what was going to happen was, every time somebody went in or out of the restaurant, the door was going to go open, and we were going to get hit with this massive blast of cold air. And so we're sitting there, once we sit down, like, should we go somewhere else, like, whatever. And Dave has this amazing idea, which none of us like at first, which is, he's like, hey, how about we treat it like we just got a ride on an awesome, we're going to go on a ride on an awesome roller coaster. Every time the door opens and the wave of cold air hits us, we're all going to be like, whee! And so, those of us who know Dave, he's one of the funniest human beings on the planet, but he's also always kind of, his comedy, especially in those days, quite often had this like sort of challenging your idea about how the world works element to it. And some of us were just like, no, let's go to another restaurant and be
right.
We also were thinking, but we're going to have to wait outside. So it's like, whatever. So we said, okay, all right, we did. And I'm pretty sure at the time I did not think it was going to work. Like, I didn't think.
Of course. Who would have,
I thought it would be funny, but I didn't think it would be pleasant,
Yeah.
And so, I mean, people are coming in and out like crazy. Plus, the restaurant's busy, so it takes us forever to get our food. So we're there, like, it takes forever for the server to take our order. It takes forever for the food to come. So we're there for like over an hour, and people are just coming in and out every couple of minutes. And every time the door opened, all four of us were like, whee!
Oh my gosh!
And I would say probably by the third or fourth time, it really did. I was laughing. I was happy.
Oh.
I was having a great time.
Were you waiting for the door to open, like
Yeah,
in
yeah.
anticipation?
And
Oh,
it wasn't like
wow.
physically. It's still kind of. It was unpleasant. So you're
Yeah.
kind of like. It was this kind of tension between like, oh, I
Yeah.
kind of like that I'm warm,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, but it was like, oh, but
Oh
when
my gosh.
what he had done is he had diffused the idea and the belief that we all had before he
Oh,
suggested
wow.
that being cold at the table was bad and wrong, and we
Okay.
shouldn't have to be cold,
Oh, right.
and kept us from complaining and being negative about it for an hour.
Oh my God.
Because I mean, I know for me, like if he had not had that idea, the long wait for
Oh
the server
yeah.
to take our
I've
order, the
I've
long
been
wait.
in those. I think we've all been in those situations.
Yeah,
I've been in those situations where
it
it
was
is
stressful.
warmer in the
Yeah,
restaurant, and then being near the door, and every time that door opens, this
yeah,
gush of, and not to the extremes that you're talking about, but for someone who's in California and San
yeah,
Diego, it's like,
yeah,
and just being like, oh, kind of like, oh, wish
yeah,
they wouldn't come in. Can't they, you know?
yeah.
Oh my God, that is brilliant.
Yeah. No, I mean, and Dave has a special talent. He did things like that in other situations, but because part of his comedy, especially in that era, as I mentioned to you in Friend Time before this, is just sort of trying to see, well, what if I just said the exact opposite of what everyone would expect me to say right now? You know, because like he used to say something like for a while he was trying this thing of like anytime somebody would say something like, oh my God, I think that's going to be really hard. He would always like immediately jump in this period and be like, or it might be super easy. And it was interesting to be on the receiving end of that and also watch him do it to other people. And I do choose the words like do it to someone as the accurate way in which it looked. Um, because even if the person didn't completely flip around, it's like, oh, just thinking about that, the ridiculousness of it being all the way to the other side actually a lot of times did open them up to like, oh, well, maybe it's not going to be as hard as I think it is. And I think what Dave really tapped into correctly, and I wasn't familiar, I don't think I'd watched The Secret yet, I don't think I was familiar with
Oh
any of that.
yeah, probably not.
But what he really was able to tap into is this awareness that like so much of our reality is determined by our response and how we think about things.
Exactly.
And we don't
Attitude is
understand like
everything.
how much power we have. We have this idea that somebody tells us something bad, well then it's just bad and we have to have bad feelings about it and whatever. And we don't understand that how we feel is really like us taking the information in, but then us translating what that means through our thoughts and then having the feeling as a result of that. And by the end of that night in the restaurant, I was happy, giddy,
Mm.
full of love, like
Oh,
laughing, smiling, whatever.
oh.
And I know I would have felt like I'd been through some sort of battle and
And
suffering.
complaining, right? Just
Yeah.
complaining about.
I mean, if Dave hadn't said that, I think, and we're not like, it wasn't a group of super negative people. It's just like, it was physically uncomfortable. So we would have been set up for
Yeah.
complaining, because it
Well,
would
the
have been happening.
momentum, right? The
Yeah,
momentum
exactly.
would have built,
Yeah.
because whatever we're focused on grows.
And the other thing is, I think in that sort of situation, just talking about momentum, like I don't remember what our food was like, but I could definitely perceive like that sort of momentum thing of like if we're
Absolutely.
complaining about the cold, if we're complaining about the wait and the cold outside, and then we're complaining about the cold, somebody gets an order that they didn't order or something isn't cooked right or something like that, and then we're complaining, you know what I mean? Like those things
Yeah.
can really
Yeah.
energetically,
They do. They do.
you know,
They do.
yeah,
And what what I thought you were going to say was, and I don't remember, but I imagine my food was really good too when it came to us, because
yeah,
that's what I'm thinking would happen
yeah,
with you switching the channel, basically,
yeah,
going down that windy river and going, oh, we're gonna take a right instead of a hard left,
yeah,
and then that path down there is like so much better than,
yeah.
wow.
The other thing too that Dave's comedy is really good at doing is because most people who do comedy, whether it's stand up or the way Dave does it, where he's just like trying to make anyone in his vicinity 24/7 laugh, is it has a bounce-off effect that I've seen in very few comedians. So not only was he making us, his goal was just making the meal easier to get through, having fun being alive, that. But then people further in the restaurant who were warm, at first they were weirded out by what we were doing. Then
that was my other thing. Like, what was the general population in the restaurant? Were they your age? Were they a mix of everything? What was?
No, it's almost all like college, undergrad, grad students. A few parents probably in town to visit, but it's mostly 20s,
Okay.
And so at first everybody was like, "What the heck are those people doing?"
That's what I was gonna say too. Like,
it went on so long, they started to figure it out, and then they started laughing. People coming through the door would be like, it was almost like one of those candid camera.
Oh yeah.
People were like they were like, what's going on? And then they'd start laughing out of being surprised by it or whatever.
Right.
So it wasn't just us. Like it was bouncing off to people in the restaurant. Yeah.
And the opposite can happen too. Like if you
100%.
what was the vibe for everyone prior to that, and how the impact that we can have on others when we practice. Dave probably wasn't even knowing at that point in his life that he was, because some people just do it naturally. They're just awesome art of allowers.
Yeah.
And they just who they are, and they don't even realize they're doing it. It's just a part of their beingness. And then there's others of us who were like you and I, we learn this material and then we practice it and we're like, oh my God. And then it becomes a part of our lives and we do it perfectly imperfect. But the impact that we have on others.
Yeah.
Either way, whether we take a hard left and it's like, oh shit, it's not going to be good at all. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And we don't even know that that's really what's happening. We're blaming it on the waitress, or we're blaming it on the restaurant, or we're blaming it on the people, not even owning that, it's a choice that I have, and I have more power than I do.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to take this right over here, and we're just going to go down here and go down this little river and see where it's going to take us. But because of my attitude and I'm, practicing art allowing, it's going to be better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is one place where the film The Secret really gets it right, and demonstrates it in a great way, where it's a montage of seeing the woman wake up in the morning, and you sort of see the two paths she could have taken after she literally stubs her toe getting out of bed. Like, she's getting out of bed, she's trips on something and hurts her toe. And they show you the first sequence of if she focuses on that negatively and starts complaining about it to herself.
And we can all relate to it, right? Like, we've all had those experiences.
And
there goes the day. I knew it was going to be a bad day.
The thing that's easy to miss in The Secret, in this sequence, is there's actually, in both branches of time, there's two bad things that happen at first. And they happen really quick. It's a quick montage. But she stubs her toe, and then in both paths, she goes to the bathroom, and she goes to brush her teeth, and there's no toothpaste. She's out of toothpaste. And I love in the branch where she just decides to think positively, because what happens in the negative branch is she complains about, she's, oh, that hurt my toe, whatever, and she gets to the toothpaste, and it's just like so relatable, like. She goes to squeeze the tube, there's nothing there, and she just slams it down like, motherfucker, I can't believe that. Toothpaste, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. Which is just one of those things of like, if there is 20 of your friends standing around, you would be aware of what a small moment that is. But when you're in your own mind and the only thing you've done is, take a hard left into negativity, something like just, you're not going to be able to brush your teeth right now and you got to buy toothpaste on the way home, can seem like my life is going in such a terrible direction right now, And but in the one where...
it can be really subtle, but it's like that negative, we just pick up that negative thinking like, and then the train of thoughts is like...
One thing I grew up with, I'm going to branch, let me finish that thread. So in the positive one, what I love is when she still stubs her toe, when she gets to the bathroom with the toothpaste, she squeezes the tube, it's empty, and she just goes, and when you think about it, like, that's even if we're not talking about law of attraction, like, that's the appropriate emotional responses.
Response, yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh, can't brush my teeth. Teeth are going to be a little grungy at work today. Gonna have to buy some.
Or just like,
Yeah, or whatever.
whatever, yeah, just wing it.
You buy one on
Where's
the way
some mouth rinse?
like
Brush
it's
my teeth with
not.
mouth rinse today.
But it's one of those ways where we've talked so often about our brains can be a disservice to to us and the way they operate, where your brain can put the spotlight effect on that and make it like, oh my god, like now I have to buy toothpaste on the way home. I might not be able to brush my teeth before I get to
Or I
work.
can't brush my teeth and I'm gonna go to that meeting and my breath is gonna be, like it could be a
Yeah,
100 different
yeah,
thoughts that we could have about that
yeah,
thing that are not gonna make us feel better.
yeah.
Um,
Without proper mental training,
and that's what it is. That's what I was gonna
brain
say.
can
It's
just
practice.
your brain can take you there even if you don't want to go there. Like your brain will
Yeah.
just da 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 da, and then you're there. The thing I was going to talk about is I'm surprised I haven't mentioned this on the podcast before, because one thing that got drilled into me when I was a younger person, all the way up through high school, I think, is a couple of phrases that people around me said a lot. People that are older than me. One of them was like quoting Murphy's Law,
Oh yeah.
which is anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Which is like, why would you? On what planet does that help anybody? Like, but I mean, people just, it was a joke,
Yeah.
like if somebody had said like, oh, when I tried to put my mascara on this morning, there was too much goop in the thing and I made my eye all black, like, oh, Murphy's Law. And like it's intended as a joke, but it's like it becomes after you repeat it. That means people are thinking it. It stops being a thought you had once. It starts to coalesce and solidify into a belief, which means then it's going to run as a computer program without your permission. And so that's one of them. The other one that was very similar was basically just like sort of summarizing it as a Murphy's Law situation. And somebody would say, oh, well, I was running late today and I went to put on my mascara in the car. And so, of course, the mascara goes all over the place and I can't put it on. Like this, of course, whatever.
Yeah, right.
And I've noticed
Expecting things to
recently,
be bad.
yeah, like I
Go wrong or
will say that today.
not go well.
And today, I will say that to people at work, in a work situation, in a friend situation. I will think it a lot, like I go downstairs on my apartment building to get the mail, and I forgot my mailbox key, and I'm like, oh, of course, I forgot to. I'm like,
Yeah.
what do I mean? Of course, like this is the first time I've ever forgotten this key. Like, it doesn't make any sense, But it's really it's really subtle sometimes, like how these thoughts become beliefs,
subtle. Yeah.
and then they
So
just
subtle.
it's like a machine gun operating in your head without your permission.
Good stuff.
So what's
Good stuff.
but as a coach, like how do you help coach people out of that stuff like that?
Well, it's noticing, like when we start to have a conversation, is like
Awareness.
noticing what they're saying to me, and then I just reflect it back to them.
Yeah.
And then over time, just continually do that. And over time, they begin to like it's so cute because I'll get text messages from people going, yeah, and I thought of you today when I was da 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 because I could hear you saying blah blah blah. And I think that's what it's the repetitive nature, because everything we just talked about was repetitive, right? Like we just do these things and we're not even conscious about what we're doing in the moment. Where I don't know about you, but I'm so in my head about the meeting I'm having, or I have to do this thing. I'm not present in the moment.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about working with someone is I'm present with them and I'm hearing what they're saying to me.
Yeah.
And then I can reflect that back to them. And that's why I meet with people once a week for, at least 6 months, because it takes time. But usually around that 3-month mark is when I start to hear the shift. It's super cool. And so it is like all of this stuff that we talk about on the podcast, it's just practicing it, right? It's becoming aware of it and then noticing it in our lives, and then having that, you said it twice, you said it, power and choice. And it's like realizing like, oh, we have a choice. And I just like take my power back. We hear that a lot. It's like, owning my own power of, am I going to choose this thought or not? How does this thought feel? What happens when I think this thought? Is that really true? There's so many things of those examples that you gave of us just saying that. Like one thing I picked up, and I'm going to need to question this one, is like, well, there's two things you can expect. And I know that I've gotten this from someone else is pay taxes and you're going to die. Like two things for sure. And it's like, really, Steph? Does that mean you want to continue to perpetuate that?
Which again, I don't want to, I don't want to make it sound like somebody who makes that joke is committing some sort of crime, but I think what's important for me in calling that out is that a lot of these negative ideas masquerade as jokes, and there may be humor value to them, but they're also like if you really could say something like that, like up death and taxes, and then you didn't believe in those two things being the only certain things in life, then that's fine. But what happens is after millions of people have made the joke to each other over time, it goes from being a joke and not necessarily being true to like a belief that gets passed around, and
Yeah.
multiple people are believing it, and it's like, for me, I'm like, I don't think the first person who made that joke intended to convince people that, death and taxes were the only certain things in life. But here we are, like lots of people now believe that because
Yeah.
that saying got passed around so much.
Well, and I remember hearing a seminar, these workshops that Abraham does, Esther Hicks, where, 100, 200, 300, 1,000 people attend, and they're up on stage and they're talking to someone in the hot seat, as they say. And this gentleman he was describing a situation that he had had, and he says like, yeah, you dummy, and he's talking about himself, and he starts saying all these derogatory things, but in a very light and funny way. And Abraham points out to everyone, did you, because I think Abraham could feel the audience, like when he said dummy, like kind of like this, because
Yeah.
I can be very responsive to certain words. And they're like, did you hear him and feel the way when he said dummy? I know a lot of you kind of like paused and were, uncomfortable with that. But can you hear his vibration was coming from a place of, being funny and joking? And that's the difference. Like we can say those things, those comments, like you said, and come from a light and funny, light place, or positive or just uplifting place,
Yeah.
and then we can and then go out about our lives and and just do the best we can to feel good, or we can say those things and really mean them and feel kind of like heavy about that and depressive and whatever, and we go on and live our life in a very negative, down kind of place. So it all just depends about the vibration and the energy in which we say things.
Yeah, that's a really good call out too. I feel like because I know people that will say things like people who know that they're smart and they're not a dummy or whatever. They'll say something like, "Oh, I'm such a dummy. I forgot my phone in the car," and they don't believe that they're a dummy. They don't believe that they're unintelligent. They're just talking. They're poking fun at their humanity, that they forgot something they normally remember. But then, and to me, that is perfectly fine. Like as long as the person is confident in themselves and they're saying that as like, I'm just poking fun at the human way, we're all kind of flawed and don't do things perfectly all the time. But I also hear people even today will say something like, oh my god, I'm such an idiot. And I try not to say too much about it, because I don't want to like be walking around in public telling people how they should think and talk about themselves. Um, but it makes me cringe. It makes me like, it really grates on me, because if it's said like that, what I sort of guess, and I think I'm probably correct in most instances, is that that's a belief. Like that's a belief, and them saying it is like that belief in their mind is looking for evidence, and then they forget their keys, and then they connect that evidence to the false belief, and by saying it out loud to themselves like that, they reinforce it and make that belief even deeper ingrained into their mind. And I'm just like, whoa, like don't be mean to yourself. Like,
Yeah. Well, and it all goes back to, how does it feel when I say it? Like, right? Like
right.
how do I feel when I say this thing? Is
Yeah,
it light and funny, or do I feel like, I'm just being silly and whatever? Or does it make me feel bad about myself?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool.
Yay.
Good discussion.
Yeah.
We hope you got something out of this today. I certainly enjoyed. Thank you for letting me tell my story from my friend Dave. Shout out to Dave.
Thanks
Uh,
for saying it. That was great. I'm going to use it in the situation I have going on and just come at it
yeah,
from a totally different perspective.
yeah.
That's
I'm so glad he did that because it didn't just help me get through that dinner. Like even before I started to learn about the secret and the law of attraction, art of allowing, like that was a part of my, oh, you can flip things. You can flip things with your own mind and how you talk and think about things. That's really interesting because we proved it. That wasn't just theory. We did it. I was there. So cool. Yeah. Yeah. So we want to thank you for listening and/or watching to the episode this week. Stephanie, if people want to find you on the information superhighway, where can they do that?
powerinjoy.com, Powerinjoy. And I look forward to hearing from you. Also, Instagram. Yeah, shout out.
Okay. And you can always find me as long as you're in the 21st century-ish. Um, and send me a direct message on Instagram. I'm at Collin _Daniels _Worster. Collin has 2 L's and Worster is WORSTER. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. We wish you a wonderful, love-filled, abundant, happy week. And we will see you next time on Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Bye.